showtime.
It's showtime. And here we go.
Welcome into another edition of the Movie Geek Podcast. I'm your host, George T., and as always, I'm bringing you news and reviews of some stuff, and I got a lot of content coming out over the next week or so. Quick update, I did not get to do my podcast with Jen and Charles, but we are trying to reschedule that. But I have seen a ton of movies in the last week or so. Plus, new job is going well, so I'm going to have more time to watch movies. So there's going to be a lot more content than just twice a week. So, or maybe some weeks it'll only be two. But for right now, we're looking pretty good. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. Remember, like, subscribe, share, comment. I have had some comments on my shorts, so keep that up. Also, any of you listening on Spotify and the others that they are posting to, thank you very much for all the support. So, with that being said, today's episode, we are going to talk about the weekend box office. We are not going to talk about the bomb at number one. We'll talk about that on my next episode. We are going to talk about one of, I think, the best spy thriller I've seen in a while, and I think it should garner some Oscar buzz. But again, it's so early in the year. Hopefully it does not get left on the shelf when that comes. And also, it will be definitely in my top 10. So right now, I've got two movies already for the year in my top 10 with Queen of the Ring and what is to come in this episode. But first, let's go to the weekend box office. As I said at the top, Disney's Snow White was number one. I thought it probably would be number one, but it is a bomb. It is an absolute nightmare for Disney. And I will get into that in my Disney episode on the next one. But it does take in $42 million. And it is shown on 4,200 screens. And I'm going to preference what I'm about to go through on this list and explain probably why. Certain films should probably see more theaters, especially really good ones, like number two. And the movie I'll be reviewing, Black Bag, stayed at number two. It made $4.2 million. It is only shown on 2,700 screens. Why? This movie has so much buzz, and it is really good. It is definitely a 2 thumbs upper. And I will go through it all in this episode. Captain America was number 4 last week. It popped up to number 3. So, for all of the people that said it is an absolute bomb for Marvel, do you know it still continues to make money? If it was that bad, it would not be in the top 5 this far into its run. What it has done, it is setting up for Thunderbolts. I'm going to keep saying that. But Thunderbolts is going to be next on my birthday weekend. So that pulled in $4 million and doing pretty well. Novocaine's was number 1 last week. It fell all the way to number 4. It made 3.6. And finally, number 3 last week was Mickey 17, $3.67 million. Alto Knights was technically a bomb. It finished 6th, and it made 3.1. I don't know. I still want to see it. Robert De Niro is still a really good actor, but it was a box office bomb. The one other movie that I did see at the theaters this week was Ash. It was from South by Southwest. It finished in 11th place, and it was only shown on 1,100 screens. It only made 659,000. It's really a good film. I just don't know why it wasn't shown. Well, I'll explain later, but a movie that way that was really hyped at South by Southwest only being shown on 1,100 screens does not help a movie. Coincidentally, the other big the big movie that came out was Locked, with Billy Skarsgård and Anthony Hopkins, and that finished ninth at 839,000, but it was only shown on 937 screens. So you hype movies up for theatrical runs, and then you don't show them. But you wanted to show Disney. I've got my comments on that, and I will show that to you later. So this weekend, the big movies for the weekend are A Working Man with Jason Statham. Look, I like Jason Statham, but we've seen this movie a bunch of times. Beekeeper was last year's movie. He does a lot of the same stuff in every film. I mean, just look at the trailer and it's same Jason Statham. He has had some good movies, but it just seems to be typecasting for him. Or maybe he just likes doing a lot of the same stuff with just a different plot. Death of a Unicorn. This is a horror comedy with Jenna Ortega. The Woman in the Yard. This is a horror film about a woman trying to grieve along with her two children in a family house, but is haunted by a woman in the yard, a death demon who is coming for them. So they must have made a pact or something, which again we'll have to find out when we see the film, but it looks very, very interesting. It was also panned at South by Southwest. The Penguin Sessions. It is a movie about a man who adopts a penguin in Argentina amidst the carnage that the government is doing to the country itself. It's just a weird kind of premise, but it is one of the major movies for this weekend. What do I think about this weekend so far? I think Woman in the Yard probably might sneak in there and get it done. Who knows? I would really hope that Black Bag would sneak in there if it got on more screens, or Disney's flop Snow White would be still number one, depending on how the fanfare goes. Some other movies of note for the weekend. We have Alexander and the Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Trip. So this is debuting on Disney Plus. It's not a sequel per se. There was an original one with Jennifer Gardner and Steve Carell. This one has Eva Longoria and Cheech Marin in it, so it's a completely different family, but it's the same premise from the books of Alexander and the Horrible Day. So for Disney Plus, this is a good movie series, and it'll probably do well. Obviously, not in the theaters. Also, speaking of not in the theaters, Prime is going to have Holland. This was also panned at South by Southwest. Nicole Kidman plays a wife teacher who is living in Holland, Michigan, and has to deal with some secret allegations. So this looked very interesting from the trailer, so I will definitely probably be checking this one out. And it goes, it's free, so why not? The Ballad of Wallace Island. Now, I saw this trailer twice when I went to see Ash and Black Bag. It is about three people. One eccentric millionaire, played by Tim Key, who brings together former bandmates, played by Tom Boston and Carey Mulligan. They were lovers at one point, but they broke up and their melodies went away. This guy wants to bring them back together for one private concert. It's funny. It's Irish. It's if you like that Irish comedy, it's pretty funny. I thought there was some scenes in the trailer that were pretty funny, so that may be. Day of Reckoning. A struggling sheriff in a Mexican city forms an alliance with a U.S. Marshal to bring down a female cartel leader. Seems fair. Julie Keeps Quiet. Now, this movie is about a girl named Julie who is a tennis phenom, and she, has all this stuff going for her. But her coach is being investigated for some stuff, and Julia keeps quiet. So we don't know what the allegations are, so obviously we'll have to watch the movie. But I would assume it would be something about molestation or whatever. So very difficult conversation to have or to watch. But these movies need to be out there because it is happening. It's happened. It will continue happening until people put an end to stupidity. A documentary that's coming out is Thank You Very Much. This one is about Andy Kaufman. Andy Kaufman was an overnight sensational comedian, very awkward, but there's been movies made about him. Man on the Moon. Jim Carrey played Andy Kaufman amazingly. And then there's been other documentaries, but this one will hit theaters with interviews and so on. So that would be pretty interesting. So that is the weekend box office. But I want to get into the crux of this podcast about an amazing movie called Black Bag. Like I said at the beginning, definitely 2 thumbs up. We have Michael Fassbender playing George, and we have his wife being played by Cate Blanchett's Catherine. So these two are the very best at what they do, being so precise and just the best agents. So at the beginning, George goes into a nightclub, goes and talks to one of his superiors. There is very sensitive information about the agency out there, and there is a list of 5 potential suspects. Holy crap. So with that, we have George wondering or questioning why his wife was on there. And they said, well, she was the only one. She could have been one of the ones that had access. So George devises a plan to have all 5 people at a dinner at his house so he can interrogate them. But he does it in a different way. He plays a little game with them. So there are 4 others and his wife. So they play a very interesting game. Now, these 4 people are very messed up. They've got secret lives, and uh, they all know each other. They have all been intimate with each other, or but it's just one crazy thing after another. They keep sharing these details about themselves, and George is kind of just observing and so on. And then one of the guests was drunk and explained why George was the best. George brought down his own father, who thought he was untouchable. Uh, he was a corrupt agent, and George was the one who brought him down. So George is pretty much unfathomable. Like, he is just the man. His wife Catherine is just as smart. So he's got to think that Catherine's name getting thrown out there has to be some kind of a mistake. So after the dinner party, they go upstairs, and he finds a movie ticket in the trash can. Now, he kind of asks about, hey, you're going to Zurich on Wednesday. Do you want to go see a movie? And he asks some questions around the movie, and she's never heard of it. So he kind of thinks it's a little suspicious, but at the same time, he's got to think that his wife is innocent. So he plants his lanyard in her bag, and obviously they work in the same building. So he gets a temporary one, goes upstairs, winds up running into her in a meeting with her boss. So he gets his key back, but then he goes in to her office and starts looking at some stuff on her computer. So you kind of get that sense of, like, he's trying to figure out, okay, could she have done this? Could she be lying to him? Because she's that good, and he's that good to know. So he uses a couple of the people in the that party for his advantage. Okay, I need you to do this for me. I need you to do that for me. I need you to watch Catherine. And they're not sure why. And he's like, do not tell anyone that you're doing this for me. So as he's gathering information, he already kind of knows something's going on. So he goes and goes fishing. And one of the main guys, comes and finds him and while he's fishing, and said, I think we've got an urgent situation. There's money that was forwarded to an account offshore, and your wife was the key access holder to that account. And he was like, really? Okay, who else knows about this? And he's like, it's just you and me. Okay, keep it that way. So this is where it gets really interesting, the little twist. He invites all four of them back to the house. And obviously Catherine's there. And as they are doing this game again, Catherine decides to make a little twist and throws a gun onto the table. And Catherine is like, okay, George and I have figured out what is really going on here. And we're going to finger one of you for a plot against the two of us. And George again knew who probably it was. So George just kind of sits back and let Catherine run it. And sure enough, it was the guy who told him that, it was Catherine's account. Catherine could have done it. He winds up grabbing the gun on the table, tries to shoot George, but there's blanks. Catherine pulls out a gun and kills him. And the rest of them go on their merry way, not to say anything. All in all, George and Catherine come up with the idea that it wasn't just him. It was higher up. It was Catherine's boss, who was trying to somehow bring down George and Catherine for whatever reason, for more power or more prestige, maybe, to take down the two best agents he has. And that boss is played by Pierce Brosnan, who winds up resigning at the end. So I skipped a lot of things. I didn't really want to give away a lot, but that is the crux of the film, where Michael Fassbender and Cate Blanchett were amazing in this movie. So again, I'm hoping that this movie does get some Oscar buzz. I hope that Michael Fassbender and Cate Blanchett get some Oscar love, or even Golden Globes, or whatever. I know this is so early on in the year, and maybe that's why Civil War last year didn't win or get any knobs. But I would think that this movie would resonate a long time, especially because it's one of the best spy thrillers I've seen in a while. There is another movie that's coming out soon called The Amateur, so I will probably preview that at some point, but that comes out in April. There's going to be a lot of good movies in April. But so far, I have 2 of my top 10 was Queen of the Ring, and again, Black Bag. If you haven't seen it yet, you love thrillers, this is a movie you need to see. I'm telling you right now, you need to see it. With that being said, I've got a lot more coming. I've got my Disney live-action movie one. I have a video game one that I will drop right before the weekend, next weekend, for the Minecraft movie, which is opening. It's going to be a 2-parter, so it's going to take a little bit of time to get through it. Also, I have an Ash review, and I've been putting off doing The Haunting, the parenting, sorry. And I saw another movie on Max called Elevation. So I'm going to do the 2 together because they are Max originals. And I'll have that as well. And I'll have some other stuff as well. So, because there's so much more stuff out there, so much more news. And we got some shows that are coming out very soon, like Dead City 2, The Walking Dead, which is coming out on my birthday weekend. So there's going to be a lot of stuff. Thunderbolts and Walking Dead. I mean, love it all. Loving it already. And then there's probably some other movies too. But all right. That being said, thank you all for listening and watching, and I will see you guys at the movies.
You like that, baby? Let him know where I came from, yeah!
See you next time. Bye.
Waiting for you. Goodbye. Goodbye. Goodbye.
Hasta la vista, baby.
That's all, folks.